Hello, hello, hello. Today is May 23rd, 2022. Every 2 weeks we hear from Norm Winski. We give ourselves a little treat. Norm, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Okay, I thought before we look at the future, we should review the forecast that I gave back on Monday, May the 9th. And we have had 7 points there. And keep in mind, if you're new to this, AC means after the close, so the planets may be doing something overnight. They don't clock out at 5 o'clock like most people do. And there you go. So we had to start off with on the night of the 9th, we had Mercury in Gemini turn retrograde. That has to do with the rolling motion of the planets. And by the way, if you want to know anything, any more understanding of some of these technical terms, please contact me. I'll send you the notes. I'll give you a free class, whatever you like. And there you go. So anytime we have Mercury, by the way, the stock market pretty much responds to most all of these events, but the commodities are narrow filters, so they only respond to certain things. So, okay, keep that in mind. All these things are for the stock market, but the other markets only respond to certain things. Mercury is the grains, so corn, soybeans, wheat. Then we have Jupiter to Uranus. That's because Uranus is in Taurus the bull, that's cattle. See how simple this is? It looks complicated, but it's really simple. Once I explain it, you'll realize that nothing I have here is over a fifth grade level. Cattle, copper, Uranus of copper, cotton, Saturn to the U.S. chart. That's we take a snapshot of the planets when the country was founded on the 4th of July, 1776. Anytime we have that, we look at U.S. stocks, T bonds, and U.S. dollar. There's another one, another U.S. point there over the. Now we're into that was the night of the 12th. And then we had a cluster of four events on the weekend of the 13th, and that will be pay attention to that because we have something like that coming up here at the end of the month. So anyway, we have the to the U.S. chart, U.S. stocks, T-bonds, U.S. dollar. Then we also had Venus aphelion. That's when Venus is at its farthest point from the sun in its 225-day cycle around the sun. Venus is cattle, copper, cotton, and sugar. And then because it has to do with the sun, we also and the sun is golden, Then the corn is golden and gold is golden, and those work too. That's how this is like first grade logic, and that works. Okay, the moon making an angle to the U.S. Neptune. So in addition to our usual U.S. Markets, we have U.S. stock, T-bonds, U.S. dollar. Because Neptune's involved, we'll be looking at oil. And then we had the big full moon lunar eclipse over the weekend of the 13th. And anytime we have a full moon, new moon, we look at financials, grains, precious metals. And because it was in Scorpio, we also add cocoa, hogs, and we already have T-bonds because that's a financial, but we got a double hit there for the T-bonds for that weekend. So let's look at the charts here now. Here's corn. You had Mercury turning retrograde right near a nice low there for the corn. And then we went up into the full moon and also Venus aphelion over the 13th weekend, and that was a nice top. Okay, there's beans making a low right on Mercury retrograde, and then but the beans just kept going higher on our full moon lunar eclipse. Here's the wheat was a bit friendlier. We made a pullback low there on Mercury retrograde, and then on the Venus and the moon, we were one day before the top, and also this is a great example. There's a great lesson here in that the Indian government back on Friday the 13th announced they were banning all wheat exports. You might know that there's crop shortages and all kinds of shortages around the world, and so if you were following fundamental news, you might decide that the wheat was going to be a rocket headed to the moon. But I looked at that with my 50 years of experience, said I think the government usually makes the wrong decision at the wrong time, and so I think we're near a top. And guess what? There's the full moon, the weekend there on the opening, and the next day it topped and came back down, and now we're really testing as of last night the levels we were on Friday the 13th. And if it breaks this level here, that would be very bearish. So, so much for following fundamental news. The moon, think, did a better job of telling you what was happening because we rallied into that lunar eclipse. All right, so that was a great lesson in market psychology. Here's the cattle going sideways. So we go sideways, we take a pass. That's a yellow box. Green, you might notice green is good, and if we hit a red one, that's a miss. There's okay. Then we had a good point there for the cattle on the Venus aphelion. Cotton was just going sideways, so we did nothing. Here's the cocoa rallying into the moon in Scorpio, full moon in Scorpio, and that was just 1 day shy of close, a little tiny bit higher top there. And there's the hogs. Hogs did not cooperate, so that's a miss. And here's sugar rallied into the Venus point there. Sugar is associated with Venus. And the next day we topped out and went down. Or you could have taken advantage of a big dip there intraday on the 16th. Here's copper was kind of going slightly higher into the Jupiter Uranus point there, and then it had a big dip that day, and so you could have made some money on that. And here's silver near the moon, and that was near the low of the month. And gold, we had 2 points for gold, and both were excellent. You had the full moon and the Venus aphelion right on that 13th weekend, and that was the low of the month. And here's crude oil on our U.S. point there to the U.S. chart over the 13th weekend, and that was right ahead of a top there for the crude oil. Here's the S&P. We had 7 points for the S&P, and that was a miss on Mercury retrograde, but we had a U.S. point there. That was excellent. We had a miss there, I think, on the other U.S. point, but then we had the big cluster on the 13th. That was a day ahead of that top, which then we had the big plunge into last week. That was, by the way, a new low for the year. Here's T-bonds. We had 5 points for T-bonds. I think that was a U.S. point there. We topped there, and then we had the big cluster there for the 13th weekend, and that was a little bit of a short-term low there. And then the dollar was excellent. We had a U.S. point there for the dollar. That was the high of the month, and then right next door on the next day, we had 3 more points, so that was selling against that top, and those all worked out. Then we have, I always tell you that the currencies dance to the moon, and there you go. British pound is just a little bit past that low there, and the euro did the same, and then the Swiss franc was right on the lunar eclipse there, and then up and away. So if you add up all the green arrows and red arrows, you had 33 winners, 4 misses out of 37 for 89.19%. All right, let's look ahead there now. Today we had a Jupiter to the U.S. chart point, and so we're looking for a possible top here today, no later than tomorrow morning, or if it goes past tomorrow morning, then that would be a miss. Then we got the big 4-point cluster coming up at the end of the week for the 3-day weekend. If you folks don't know, maybe you're in another country, Monday the 30th is a holiday here. So we have Mercury aphelion. Mercury will be at its farthest point. Mercury is green, so watch that. Then we have Jupiter to Neptune. That'll be oil. And then we have a Saturn lining up with Uranus. That'll be cattle, coffee, copper, cotton. And then we have the new moon, and that'll be financials, grains, and precious metals. So if you'd like these notes, or you'd like to talk to me or ask questions, please feel free to call me. The best time to get a hold of me will be early in this week. We're doing this on Monday, the 23rd, because I'm on my crunch week here now, deadline week, to get the June letters out. So the farther along we go this week, the busier I will be. Your best chance to get some help will be in the next day or two. Please call me, and you're in beautiful Naples, Florida, at 239-594-3939, or you can email me, Winski, at embarkqmail.com. Or you can Skype Winski_1. And keep in mind, I know this stuff looks complicated, but all you got to do is learn a few new terms and so forth, and it's really nothing over a 5th grade level. And I'm looking forward to helping some of the folks there, Jeff.
Okay, looks like this weekend's a big weekend in your work, so my antenna will be up. Norm, thanks as always. That was a great presentation. And I'm going to circle the dates on my calendar, and we'll see you back in June.
Great. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.